Hey everybody, this is Pastor Scott Henson from Dallas Baptist Church. I want to talk a little about wilderness today. We're continuing our Wednesday night study on wilderness. And one of the things I want us to look at is Exodus chapters 15, 16, and 17, some passages in there, and how the Israelites, they murmured, they complained. They didn't trust that God would give them just enough to get by. Sometimes we want life to be rosy and peachy, but sometimes God gives us just enough to get us to the next stopping point in life. Enough shade to cool us down for a little bit. Enough water to get us to the next stop. Literally, he did that with Israelites. He does it a lot metaphorically with us. So we're going to look here in just a moment in those verses in Exodus and think about three questions that Ray Vander Laan raises in his book, Walking with the Lord in the Desert. The question is, what hardship or crisis did the Hebrews face or the Israelites face? What was their solution? And essentially, how did God show himself to be a faithful provider to them? We're looking at Ray Vander Laan's Walking in the Desert, Walking with God in the Desert, and this is session 2. It's hot here, and there's no way out. Here's a quote from Vander Laan from page 63 that makes us think a little bit deeper here. The hard times in life really reveal who we are and what we're made of. Our intestinal fortitude, if you will, our willpower, our faith in many ways as a Christian. The quote goes, Exodus records a number of desert situations in which the Hebrews revealed what they really believed about God and Moses, his chosen leader. Again, the desert situations in which the Hebrews really revealed what they really believed about God. Was he a big enough God? Was he faithful enough? Sometimes their responses wasn't very positive. We look over in Exodus chapter 15, verses 22 through 27. It says, So Moses brought Israel from the Red Sea, and they went, this is the King James, by the way, and went into the wilderness of Shur, and they went 3 days in the wilderness and found no water. So God had just brought them from this amazing event of the Red Sea, where God had parted this body of water. The literally the Hebrew is Yam Suf, Sea of Reeds. The Septuagint calls it the Red Sea. That's how we get that. It may be in the Red Sea, maybe a massive body of water, or it may have been a smaller body. But nonetheless, God did it. God parted a body of water so people could walk across. That wasn't something insignificant. And you would think with something that major, the Israelites' faith would have kicked in and said, God has done this for us. He could do it again. But they go 3 days in the wilderness and found no water. So when they came to Marah, they could not drink the waters of Marah, for they were bitter. Therefore, the name of the place was called Marah. Marah comes related to the Hebrew word, which means bitter. The name Mary comes from the same Hebrew word, means bitter. So somebody named Mary technically is bitter by name, right? I'll tell them that. And the people murmured against Moses, saying, What shall we drink? They complained to Moses, What are we going to drink, Moses? What are we going to drink? They complained. God had provided in the Red Sea, part of the Red Sea. Surely God is going to take care of them with water. But they murmured, they complained. I love the old King James, that murmured instead of complained. And so what did Moses do? He cried unto the Lord, and the Lord shewed him, good old King James, a tree, which when he cast into the waters, the waters were made sweet, drinkable in other words. And they made them for them a statute and an ordinance, and there he proved them. Slide's not very good. Oh, went too far on the slide, and it won't let me go back. But anyway, so the point being, God set them up, and God provided with the tree, making the water sweet so they could drink it. God provided something temporary. And notice by the time they get to Elam, they're set up great here. They've got 12 wells of water and 70 palm trees. They got a bunch of palm trees. They got shade, they got water. They camped by the waters. They just waited a little bit longer, right? Instead of complaining and moaning and groaning. So as we ponder the questions, what crisis did they face? Well, they had no water, and the water they had was not drinkable. It's not potable. So their solution, they complained about it. They murmured about it. What did Moses do? He cried to God. He went to God about it. Now, how did God show himself to be a faithful provider? God provided a tree to make the water sweet. And he eventually provided 12 wells, at Elam. God provided just enough. We look over in the next section, Exodus chapter 16, verses 1 through 5, then we'll look at 9 through 15. And they took the journey from Elam, and all the congregation, the children of Israel, again it's the King James, came into the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elam and Sinai, on the 15th day of the second month after their departing out of the land of Egypt. So the 15th day of the second month after their departing from Egypt. And that wasn't a horribly long time. And the whole congregation of the children of Israel murmured against Moses and Aaron in the wilderness. They complained. There's a certain word that comes to mind about they moaned and groaned about it, about the wilderness. Why do they moan and groan? Just a moment. The children of Israel said unto them, would to God we had died by the hand of the Lord in the land of Egypt, when we sat by the flesh pots, and we did eat bread to the full. And for ye have brought us forth in the wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger. Life was so much better in Egypt. Life was so much better. We had food. It's one of those instances when you think about the good old days, the good old days weren't as positive as we thought they were. Well, guess what? Those good old days, they were slaves. They were beaten. They were tortured. They weren't free. They had food. Perspective had changed that quickly with them. Sometimes we get stuck in that moment, that existential crisis of the moment, and our gut reaction, the flesh reaction, is to complain, to focus on that moment. Luckily, God sees the broad picture, not just that moment. Well, they got stuck in the moment. Then the Lord said unto Moses, behold, I will rain bread from heaven for you, and the people shall go out and gather a certain rate every day, that I may prove to them whether they will walk in my law or no. Bread from heaven. It came to pass on the 6th day, they shall prepare that which they bring in, and it shall be twice as much as they gather daily. The Sabbath, right? And Moses spake unto Aaron, saying to all the congregation of the children of Israel, come near before the Lord, for he hath heard your murmurings. God's heard your complaining, people. And it came to pass, as Aaron spake, King James, and to the whole congregation of the children of Israel, that they looked toward the wilderness, and behold, the glory of the Lord appeared in the cloud. God showed himself. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, I have heard the murmurings of the children of Israel. Speak unto them, saying, at even ye shall eat flesh, in the morning ye shall be filled with bread, and ye shall know that I am the Lord your God. And you will know that I am the Lord your God. You would have thought by this point, with the Red Sea, the providing of the water at Marah, and God even getting them out of Egypt with the plagues, and all the things that God, the pillar of fire and the cloud, you would think that they would know that Yahweh, Adonai, God, is God. Nope. It takes something else. And it came to pass that even the quails came up and covered the camp, and in the morning the dew lay round about the host. So they had quails to eat. God provided quails, and the dew lay around the host. And when the dew that lay was gone, behold, upon the face of the wilderness there lay a small round thing, as small as the hoar of frost on the ground. So here's the manna, right? And when the children of Israel saw it, they said to one another, it is manna, for they wist not what it was. Wist, that's definitely good King Jamesism. And Moses said unto them, this is the bread which the Lord hath given you to eat. God provided. Now notice the thing about the manna, it wasn't something they could keep overnight. It had to do it every day. And I had a professor in college who would jokingly say that the manna in the wilderness was fried okra, because the first day you eat fried okra, first get it out of the pan, it's delicious. Try to warm it back up, it's nasty. No, the manna wasn't fried okra, but still it's that same notion that God provides. Okra may not be the best thing for you. It may not be the tastiest, delectable thing, but God provides. I mean, that's good old good country eating. It's like cornbread and pintos. I mean, it's not the most expensive thing, but if that's what you have to live off of, that's what you have to live off of, and it'll get you by. Cornbread and milk. I've eaten many a bowl. Still choose to eat it sometimes just because I love it. Ain't the fanciest food. Ain't a T-bone steak. Ain't some grilled chicken breast with mushrooms and smothered with provolone or Gouda cheese or something like that and a nice sauce. It's not that. But cornbread and milk will get you by. So what hardships did the Israelites face in Exodus 16, 1 through 15, or especially 1 through 5, 9 through 15? They faced food shortages. They needed food. What was their solution? They complained about it. They groaned about it. They moaned about it. How did God show himself to be a faithful provider? He provided the manna. He provided the quail. He provided food for them. A temporary solution, just enough to get them by to the next day or to the next stop. God's faith, God's sustaining grace gets us by to the next stop in life, next point. Exodus chapter 17. Now, we're going sequentially in the order of the book of Exodus, and there's not like years in between these stories, not like decades in between these stories. These are relatively close in time frame. I mean, this is something they should know what has happened. Okay, let's go to the story, Exodus 17. And all the congregation of the children of Israel journeyed from the wilderness of Sin after their journeyings, according to the commandment of the Lord. They pitched in Rephidim, and there was no water for the people to drink. Now, just back in 15, there wasn't any water, and what they had the water they had, wasn't good enough to drink. There's no water in 17. Wherefore the people did chide, good King James word, chide with Moses, and said, Give us water that we may drink. Moses said unto them, Why chide ye with me? Wherefore do ye tempt the Lord? The people thirsted there for water. The people complained, moaned, groaned, murmured against Moses, and said, Wherefore is that thou hast brought us up out of Egypt to kill us and our children and our cattle with thirst? We're going to die, Moses. We're going to die of thirst. Why'd you do this to us, Moses? It's all your fault. All your fault. There's no faith there. This testing, this wilderness moment for Israel showed who they really were. They weren't faithful. They need to be molded and shaped by the wilderness to rely on God. They complained. Kind of like a Baptist church, right? I joke. And Moses cried unto the Lord, saying, What shall I do unto this people? They be almost ready to stone me. It's like the Bob Dylan song, everybody must get stoned, right? I think that's not talking about that. Anyway, Exodus 17, 1 through 6. What hardship or crisis did the Hebrews face? Well, water again, water shortage. They're in the desert. They're in the wilderness. And this is not some flat plain of desert. This is rocky, hilly mountains. You can't see where you're going, not coming from, but it's dry as a bone. And one of the things that Vanderlaan talks about in his videos is the little broom trees. They're not huge. They're bushes or shrubs. Give a little bit of shade, but not enough to cover everybody. But their problem here was water. They're in a desert. Needed water. What was their solution? Same solution they had back in chapter 16. Same solution they had back in chapter 15. They moaned, they groaned, they complained, or as the King James says, they murmured. How did God show himself to be a faithful provider? He provided water from a rock. Moses smited the rock, provided water. We go through a lot of deserts in life, a lot of dry periods of life, a lot of trials, a lot of issues that bring us down. It may be a loss of job. It may be economic viability. It may be health issues. It may be broken relationships, psychosocial issues. We go through a lot of trials in life, especially in the midst of the pandemic. Everything's amplified up to 10, maybe to 11, if you will. God gives us enough to get us through to the next stop. It's not totally getting us by. It's not a rose garden that we've promised. This fact, we're reminded that there's really no true rest until we get to glory. Revelation reminds us of that. One of the beautiful images in Revelation is the heaven is that the sea is made of glass. That all the turbulent, uncertain sea of life is made still and calm and peaceful for us. There's no crying, there's no tears. There's just faith in God. What does the wilderness period of your life, or the wilderness periods of your life, reveal about you? Is it faithfulness or unfaithfulness? Are the trials in life filled with complaining, or is it filled with trust in God? God will get us through the next stop. God may not get you a big, huge steak buffet. He may get you a cake of cornbread and some milk, but he'll get you through. He'll get you through if you remain faithful and trust in him.